Selamat datang, good day, and welcome to the virtual colloquium by Institute of Teacher Education International Languages Campus, or better known as ITG-KBA, with the theme Humanizing Teaching and Learning, the Dynamics of Language Education in the Waves of Global Change. I'm Hakima, your moderator for today's session. Welcome to the first session of our virtual colloquium, and I hope you will stay tuned till the end of this session. Today, we have a very special speaker from University Technology Malaysia, a public university in the southern region of West Malaysia. Before we get to know further, let me lay out a few housekeeping matters. First, everyone who attends to this webinar series will be given an e-certificate after each session. Therefore, don't forget to register yourself now and make sure to type accurately your email address. The registration link is pinned at the bottom of this YouTube channel. Second, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have any question for our speaker, please feel free to send it through the chat box. The speaker will be answering questions from time to time or at the end of the session. If we don't answer your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. Now, let me introduce our speaker for today. Professor Zuraida Muhammad Don retired from University of Malaya as Professor A. She's currently attached to Language Academy at UTM as Professor of Linguistics and English Language. She has more than 200 publications in language and linguistics. Her most recent authored book was published in 2019, and an edited book on policy implementation was published earlier this year. Here's the interesting part about Professor Zuraida. In recognition of her work and expertise in English language, the Ministry of Education Malaysia appointed her as an advisor of English language matters, including founding chair of English Language Quality and Standards Council. She was chair of the Committee for the Development of Ecosystem Model for Public Universities, co-chair and now senior advisor and primary consultant to the project on CEFR-aligned language assessment at tertiary level, and chair of the MUET Syllabus Revision Committee. She was a Commonwealth Scholar and visiting scholar at Lancaster University and University College London, and she's also adjunct professor at UPSI and University Malaysia Kelantan. With this, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Professor Zuraida Muhammad Don.
Thank you, Dr. Hakima. That's very nice of you. And I'm very pleased to be here with you and with all the audience of this presentation.
Welcome to the show, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope that there are some questions that I can take. You can stop me, Dr. Hakima, you can stop any time you think that this question is important, and I shall answer the question. Okay, shall we begin now?
The floor is yours. Yes, the floor is yours now, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, again, I'm very happy to be given this chance and opportunity to talk to all of you. The title of my presentation today, to be in line with the theme of today's conference, is Humanizing Language Policy Implementation, Lessons to Learn from the Pandemic. Now, before I begin the presentation, I would like to first of all define what I mean by humanizing and how I use the notion humanizing in this presentation. Yeah. And I'm going to divide this presentation into two, looking at the title of my talk itself. The first part, I'll talk about the policy, bringing in the human agency into my talk. And the second, I'll talk about the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has affected and will affect us in the future. Yep. First of all, let us go to the second slide, please. Second slide, yeah, after the introduction. Okay, that's good. Now, just to give a quick background to this presentation. I'm going to talk about, of course, the pandemic, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on education. And we cannot but accept that that this pandemic has caused disruptions and massive changes in education, and it impacts nearly every student in Malaysia. Particularly, you're talking about, this is the saddest thing, particularly those who are the unprivileged, those who come from unprivileged background, those who come from the poor family. That's the saddest part of it. Second is that the sudden closures of school closures, and whether we like it or not, we've got to accept that the sudden school closures have affected the life not just of the students, but of course our teachers. And fantastically, our teachers rose to the occasion, and they're able to adapt, and innovate, and they put in a lot of effort to make changes quickly to respond to this sudden closure of schools. And I say to the teachers, thank you, teachers. Your effort is really, and we can't say enough to say thank you to you. And I think the children of Malaysia would feel the same. Now, what we realize from this sad situation is that somehow when there is a crisis, when there's a problem, somehow we get together and try to do our best. And this is what I think we should learn from COVID. The fact that we can work together, we can stand together, and by being together, we are able to overcome some of the difficulties that we're facing now. That's the first one. The second one, the teachers have to put on what we call teaching and learning remotely immediately, because students cannot come to school, so they have to put on teaching remotely, and that's quite a quite a lot of stress, as well as a lot of pressure on the teachers as well as the students. So it is really a shock to all of us that we have to suddenly have this mode of learning and teaching. However, as I said, the teachers managed to respond proactively and get the support. Of course, we need more support. As I always say, there's always not enough support, but they did manage to get support in order to change the delivery from classroom to online delivery. Now, I would like to cite the what I got from Zhao and Watterson. This is very important. So the changes that we went through were more about addressing the immediate and the urgent need of continuing schooling and teaching online and finding creative ways to reach students at home. So this is what we learned, that it is more to make sure that students have the learning that are required, to make sure that our students continue schooling despite being at home. But of course, it's actually more of emergency remote learning. So there's no, no time for us to rethink how we present education online. And in this circumstance, when you look at remote learning this way, so the change may be considered insubstantial, but however, this change will, I think, change our life forever. And I think it will be for the good. Next slide, please. Now, one thing we have to accept is that whether we like it or not, this change have affected policy implementation as well. If teachers do remember, and I'm sure RPJM lecturers as well, that we are now in the midst of implementing the English language education policy, which is written in the roadmap. And this is we have finished what we call the second phase of the implementation. First phase, we had it early 2015, 2016, then 2017, 2020, and so on. So we have finished the second phase. And now we're going to the third phase. What is very important is that I think all of us, and talking about humanizing the change, that we as teachers, we as educators, even we at the level of decision making, the decision makers, we must not be set in our ways. We've got to adapt, we've got to change. And one important thing we must remember, it is not for us, it is for our students, particularly for those students who are in the kampong there, who have no access to online learning, who do not have the software and the tools that they need in order to, in order to learn. Yeah. So this is for me and for all of us. I think we have to look at ourselves now and see how we can change in order to accommodate the change caused by COVID-19. Now, one thing I'd like to also say is that when we talk about educational change must respect. I always tell people that when you have educational change, we must make sure that the change, what we call that, must be taken in compassionate, generous, and nurturing ways. So, and the most important for any change is a care for the individual, so that the change becomes a genuine core value. Because a change is not just about change at a superficial level. It has to become a genuine core value, which means that all of us need to be involved in the change and need to understand why we're changing so that we can accept it and help our students to move on. Next, please. Now, this planning, as I said before, if you look at the Green Book, that's the roadmap. And of course, that is our MEB, yeah? And when we are talking about policy itself, the policy, so we started the policy in 2016, actually. 15 is when we produced a roadmap. Never did we think or imagine that there was going to be a massive a pandemic of this nature. So we didn't plan for how we're going to address this, because we thought it's going to be just implementing itself. And we must remember, those of you who are in policy, implementation of policy is one of the most difficult things that one can do. Coming up with a document is difficult enough, but that's nothing compared to implementation. Yeah, because implementation involves us, we as implementers, teachers. These are the ones who are going to implement. If we cannot capture the heart of teachers, there's no way we can succeed. We have to capture the heart. We have to work with teachers. We have to understand them, and we hope that teachers will also understand us, because all of us have the same goal. Our goal is to make our students succeed in their learning, in our context, in the learning of English, and then give them a chance to continue their life, and hopefully they will get a good job, particularly in this borderless community society where, with internet and so on, globalization is within our environment itself. We don't have to say, oh no, you don't have to travel to be aware of globalization. The most important thing is that when we implement, we always look at past reform and know that success or failure of an implement depending on the people, the human agency. That's why I call it humanizing. Where are the human selves that are going to help us to implement this? Remember, these are for our children. Yeah, how are we going to help our children? And now with the COVID, with the COVID pandemic, we have an added, I would say, not to say problem, a challenge, yeah, where we have to see how now with COVID, how do we move forward in order to make sure that the policy is implemented. More importantly, that our children are given the kind of English they require in order to communicate. Now, let me just give you a little bit about the policy itself, because sometimes people tend to make the policy sounds very difficult. Actually, it's quite straightforward. The policy is very simple. The aim of the policy is to enable our students to communicate in writing, in speaking, in listening, and reading. These are the types of skills. In order to enable them to develop and be able to give them a chance to get a good job. That's all. Nothing difficult about that. I learned this when I was in England, 1985, 1983. I was doing my master, I think 1981 or 82. 81, I was still at UM. 84, I think. That's it. And why CFR? The CFR just gives what we call the standards. What it means is that like for example, I always tell people when we ask each other, okay, so tell me about yourself. Oh, he's an elementary learner. Tell me about this elementary learner, your learner. You can't. What is elementary? What is intermediate? What is advanced? What the CFR gave us is a tool to describe what students can do at A1, what students can do at A2, in speaking, listening, reading, and writing, what students can do at B1, B2, until C1, of course, C2. Yeah, it gives us that. So because it gives us that, we are able to find a book that can help the students reach that level. We are able to give a test, yeah, both we can give them a test at that level, yeah, when they leave a certain level of education. Yeah, for example, standard 6, they're supposed to live at A2. We know what A2 means. Yeah, when a student can write at A2, what can he do? What can a student do at A2 to write? And what can he listen? What can he read? What can he say at A2? So these are all what I call descriptors, which are according to what students can do. Very performance descriptors to help teachers and help us and to help students to know where they are and how they can move forward. So in that way, it's positive. Yeah, it's positive in that way. Now, the problem is that, you see, when we come out policy, I would call challenges. We've got challenges. Policy have to be implemented in according to certain stages. So we have finished with phase 1. We've gone to phase 2. Now we are in phase 3. Another thing is that a challenge that policy need to be designed. Well, we have designed the policy, so that's not a problem for us now. Yeah, you have to design the policy. You have to come with a plan so that this policy is implemented. We have that, no problem at all. And the policy, unfortunately for policy is often determined by events. COVID is the event. Yeah, COVID is the event. So we have to write another document for sustainability of a policy, okay? And of course, the policies are often direct or indirect. So we go on, can we go on to the next one? Yeah, I have to be a little bit quick here. Go on, please. Next slide, please. Okay. That's the distinct stages if I talk about this now. Yeah. So we have the baseline study and we have these 3 stages, phase 1, phase 2. Now we are in phase 3. Yeah. And we are supposed to have what we call 2021, the impact study, to see whether what students had gone through, not rather whether, but to find out what students have gone through, how have they helped our students. Now remember, we've got another thing, we've got the COVID. So COVID could have affected the learning because we are here focusing on communication. Communication is best for students to be in class, to communicate with their friends, with the teachers. We don't have that now. So we have to take that into consideration when we do the impact study. Let me go on now to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So, okay. Yes. Okay, good. Now, when we talk about policy design, of course, before the slide there, you have decision, you have policy implementation, you have policy outcome. Yeah. Now we're going to this slide here. This is very important. When we have come up with a policy, we've got to bring the policy from the macro level when we first design the policy and bring it to the level of practice. That's where the teachers are. And many studies have shown that it is this stage of translating the policy from the macro to the micro, that's where the problem is. Yeah. But I always say to myself, no matter what we do in life, there's always a problem. It doesn't matter how you see the problem. Now, if our aim is to help our students, the problem is irrelevant because we will try to overcome the problem because the students are important for us. So if you look at the policy itself, there's this micro level, yeah, and infra micro. These are where the teachers are, where the schools are, yeah. And this is when the policy have to be translated into practice for the teachers. Now, let me just show you what the Ministry of Education has done. Really, the ministry in that way has been really fantastic. They have come out with, can we go on to the next page, please? Okay, before I talk about what the ministry has done. Now, there is always, when you implement a policy, there's what we call a gap between theory and practice. What we think as theory is something, when we put into practice, it becomes something else. Yeah. So for example, in order for teachers to implement this policy, they must understand what this policy is about. Sometimes we can't help it. Different people define in different ways and got all of us confused. As I said, this policy is very simple. The aim is to develop the ability of our students to communicate in writing, speaking, listening, and reading. That's the aim, so that our students are able to communicate. And of course, to communicate, they have to know the language, which means that we've got to provide the students with the English that they need in order to communicate at different levels. Yeah. So, for example, we've moved students from pre-A1, primary school, nyanyi-nyanyi, menari-nari, let them, they love, let them talk, let them sing and enjoy the language. When they come to standard 1, we start, giving them the book and they start learning in a particular way. Then we hope that when they go to standard 6, when they leave standard 6, they get A2. So these are our targets. And our targets depend on the CFR. With these targets, teachers can then use this in order to do what we call improve the teaching, improve the learning. So this is why we have formative assessment in the classroom for teachers to look at it, to assess their students, not in order to give them pass or fail, but to say, now where is this little beauty of mine? Oh, she's still there, down there. Okay, I'll bring her up. So you need to help her to move up, yeah? And the others who are already good, you need to bring them so that they together work as a group. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we cannot have that kind of situation, yeah? We can't. But whatever it is, the students are coming back, okay? Students are coming back to school. We hope that, we can do something in order to help the students again communicate and talk, use English as they would use any other language in their life. Yeah, we human beings, one thing about us human beings, communication is part of our life. It's just a matter of using another language. So help our students to have another language for them to use in order to communicate. That's all. Yeah. Next one. When we talk about implementing this in the classroom, yeah, whose responsibility is it? Yeah, we cannot just say these are teachers. Teachers need help. We need to give them the help that they need in terms of materials. So there must be joint efforts. We must work together. What I find most distressing is that sometimes we forget that this is not about us, yeah. The policy is not about us. The materials we develop are not for us. They are for our children, which means that share the materials. Let all of us have a look. Let all of us see what this material are, and we can help in order to improve. I always feel that sometimes, we tend to be in our little isolated space. Not that we don't want to work with each other, it's just that we are so used to that little isolated space. We tend to feel a bit more comfortable when someone checks on what we are doing. But in policy, it is not about checking. In policies that we help each other so that at the end of it, our students get the best. We should help our students. We help each other so our students get the best. And our teachers get the best material that you can imagine. And our teachers have the heart. It is the heart that counts. Have the heart to help the children. Yeah, to help these children, especially these children that are going through COVID. I'll talk about that. It's so sad. It's so sad. Now, what does it mean? Which means that sometimes we forget to engage with the teachers. Teachers are there everywhere. There must be engagement. Now we have this internet. Wonderful. Some people say, oh my God, with this, it's make life difficult. But in other ways, we can communicate with whoever we want. We can organize talk without having to spend so much money. We can have engagement with our teachers and talk about our problem so that we share the problem. Perhaps our friends have solved the problem. We can then use her ways to solve our problem. So this is about, COVID tells us that there's no way we can live in our own little world. There's no way we can live in isolation because we have to work together in order to save our future for our children. That's the only way to move forward, so that each one of us help each other. So we have to engage teachers. We have to engage with teachers. We have to engage with stakeholders. We have to engage with parents, so that parents understand what we're doing. Teachers understand why we need this, yeah, and how we're going to go about doing this, okay? And I always tell people one thing about policy when I look at the failure of policy is you do not understand what it is that is to be done in school. Teachers may not understand, not because of what, but because perhaps of communication. Okay, so we have to work towards making our teachers understand. They work very hard, but teachers also must help us to help our children. May go to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Before that, please. Before that. Okay. Just before that. Never mind. It's okay. I can just talk about it. Before COVID. Yeah. Now, yes, this one. Yes, that one. When we make the change for CFR aligned English language curriculum, we know that in order to change, you must first of all make structural change. What does structural change mean? Which means that the curriculum, we must give the teachers a curriculum. We have what we call curriculum framework that look at the development of students from preschool up to Form 5. Teachers have available. And I hope that teachers are given the link to go and look at. Before that, we don't have. So we have the whole stages of learning from preschool up to Form 5. And now the post-secondary are doing their curriculum, so they will continue. And universities are preparing their curriculum. They are going to accept students in 2023 doing BA, and 2022, if I'm not mistaken, for diploma and Asasi science. So they are doing their work now in order to prepare for the students coming in. But we must remember that change is stress for everybody. But more importantly is that we know we're going to change. I think more importantly is that it becomes less stress if we work together as a group. If we look at this work as what we call in Muslim, we call amal jariyah, yeah? Helping, as a help to people. Yeah, that's a way to help children, help our colleagues who may not be able to use the technology to teach, help our friends, help each other, okay? And of course, in order to succeed, not just a change that we have the curriculum, the materials, not just that, we also need to build capacity. So I'm going to look at the next slide now. Can we go to the next slide, please? About building capacity. Now, as soon as, that's it. As soon as the government, we see one thing about this English language policy that it's planned way before the implementation itself. In fact, 2013, we've already planned, the policy, and we finish it in 2015 for submission. But what is important is that the moment the policy is submitted for approval, in 2016, the ministry, worked with Cambridge to come up with what we call the capacity building program. I noticed that when I read read past research. That is a problem. It is building the capacity. It is making sure that our teachers are prepared. Of course, it's not possible to prepare everybody at the same time. This is a massive change, and I hope our teachers understand that. There's no way we can do overnight, and with COVID, it makes it life more difficult. But I hope there is a little bit of what do you call that? Care. The teachers do care about accepting that somehow, that life is just not as easy as it seems, and we may need to adapt. And with COVID, looking at the eyes of our children, we cannot but help them. Yeah, it is such a sad situation. So what I'm saying is that this capacity building program, which the ministry has come out, which is fantastic, from 2016 to 2020. And that capacity program, they produce curriculum framework. They also help to come to a scheme of work at the very beginning, syllabus and scheme of work. In fact, every scheme of work even has the page number of the book that they are using, which means that you have a scheme of work and the page number where the lesson is even given. And there are materials that Cambridge has developed. In fact, there are materials that teachers themselves have developed. I hope teachers, everywhere will have access to this. In fact, I've told the ELTC that teachers need access to this material, and the LTC, I think, is aware of this, and ELTC is fantastic. We'll make this available as well. So teachers, please, bear with us. We are trying our best to help you, and I hope that all of us help each other. More importantly, especially now, to have our children come back to normal life again, if ever we can. Now, and the teacher has been trained, of course. The training, we can't afford to teach every teacher. So we have what we call adopted, what we call training where what do you call that? We pass the training from the trainers, master trainers, to our teachers. And so we train the master trainers, the master trainer replicate the training and then pass it on to teachers. And of course, this is not a perfect, nobody says it's a perfect way of training, but that is a beginning. And we should go on training our teachers. And I hope that, IPGM, particularly IPGM, producing students who are going to teach primary and preschool, and universities producing students who are going to teach secondary, with new batch of students coming on to teach English, and our senior teachers to help us, to help our young ones to also get into the system fast. Yeah. So, okay, go on to the next one. Because we don't have much, I'm going to talk about COVID itself. Yeah. Okay. Now, what we didn't expect is, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the change has affected our life, more than anything else we can imagine. And, we hear of death, we hear of people getting COVID. So what COVID does to us is look at ourselves and say, oh my God, we are only a human being. We are only a human being. Life can just end. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that I hope COVID tells us that we need to bring back humanity into our life. We need to bring back the human self, the care and the love for others, and the feeling of empathy for those who are less privileged than us. Yeah. When you look into the eyes of our children, you can see the pain. There are a lot of pain. You see, children losing their parents overnight, both parents. So there is so much sadness in our life. But never, don't think about that. So we need to rethink what is necessary, what is desirable, what even is possible for our children. We need to work together so that we can help each other to say, help the children. There's no more, this is mine, you cannot come into my territory, that is yours. No, we shouldn't do that. That's the end of it. We must help each other to survive. We must help each other, to help our children to survive. That is the core now. Nothing about myself. Our self is no more the center of the universe. Our self is part of the universe to help each other to survive. If COVID doesn't teach us, what else can teach us in order to become a human being? Human being with integrity, human being who care, human being who are willing to give their all to help children. These are the kind of human being that we need. Yeah, these are the kind of human that will save us, save our nation, save our people, and save our children. Yeah. Let me go on to the next slide, please. Go on to the next slide, please. I want to show the empty seats, please, before that. Before that, the slide before that, yes. Look at this. Just look at that. Where are our students? Where are they? Where are they? They're at home. What are they doing there? This is where humanizing education becomes essential. How do you humanize education? How do you humanize it? One is look at every single person as a human being. Look at every single person as what you look at yourself. Make us realize that we are here for a short while to stay. Life is so short. Spend our life to help others to succeed, to reduce some of their difficulty and problems. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, when we talk about school closures, they're not just about remote learning. It is about remote learning during a pandemic. There's a difference here. There's a difference. Remote learning is something else, but remote learning during a pandemic is something else. When your children come back to school, look into their eyes, look into the pain of losing their loved ones. Now, in this context, students may come back full of anxiety. Students may come back full of fear and isolation. And for English, one thing about English is that you can talk about anything. You can talk about anything. For children who are in primary school, they should talk about themselves, about themselves, their situation. They may not have the language, but they can talk about themselves, their sisters, their siblings, their friends. So bring that into the class. Talk about themselves. And for A2 students, yes, you're right. We need to be flexible. Yeah, I have the word flexible as well. Yeah, you need to select what you teach, what is in the curriculum. Yes, allow for flexibility. Yeah, you do that. It is important, first of all, to make the student to make the environment to be less impersonal. So you can talk about the self. Our children come and ask him about their, about their life, whatever. It may be a sad situation, but it is, if we can talk to each other and support them and use that as a topic for your teaching so that we bring back the human self into our class. You need to check the students whether they are coping. I don't know how you're going to do that, but I'm sure teachers are fantastic. Yeah. Allow students opportunity to connect with one another. Yeah. I'm not sure whether they have phones, whatever, how we're going to do that. But I'm sure teachers can try to do something of that nature. But make sure there are opportunities for them to be in contact. Yeah, I'll take out the question afterwards. Yeah, that's a very good one. We go on to the next one. Yeah, next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Now, just before that, please. Okay. Now, when we talk about online learning, there is of what we call digital divide. Yeah. There is inequity, whether we like it or not. There is inequity because the poor may not have, first of all, is their connectivity. Next, whether they have the computers, whatever we need in order to help them so that they have access to learning. Yeah. And I think I bring in the word notion of flexibility. Yeah, because yes, flexibility. This is also flexibility also in relation to what the students so far, when they come back to school, you would know at what level they are, at what level they are at. So teachers need to be flexible. You cannot use the curriculum as something which is set in stone, because we are talking about learning and we're talking a break in learning. So there must be flexibility. Very good, Zurina, I love it. Flexibility. More importantly is, how do you do that? How do you make your lesson? How do you bring in what they need to know and leave out what is not necessary into your classroom? And I'm sure, I think very importantly, for us, yeah, you all, especially IPGM and universities, what you need to teach your own students going to go out to school, how they should be flexible in their teaching and learning, to enable to take account into the fact that these students are being affected by COVID, by the pandemic. It is not their fault. How do you do that? So in a way, this new way of learning, we have to be flexible. Yeah, flexible. That's one thing. And we have to make sure that it goes up to the top. That flexibility is very important. Another one is that I think that Ko Chung Wei, yeah, MOE, yes, most do not speak English outside of class. Yes, of course. When I was a student, I didn't speak English as well outside the class. I came from a non-speaking English home. I didn't speak a word of English when outside the classroom. That's true. Yeah, that's true. I came from that background. So how do we facilitate? Let them talk. Just encourage them to say something. Even if they they use a few English words, so what? When I learned myself in my house, on my own, reading a book that someone gave me, I was actually creating my story because I could not read yet. Creating my own story. Yeah. So let it be. For more importantly, let us become human beings. Let them talk. Get over the fear of talking. Because sometimes people fear to talk because English is bad. Or someone says, oh, your English is like kampong. Ni apa ni Kelantan punya English? I'm Cantonese. So what? But more importantly, give them the chance to talk. I'm Cantonese. Yes. Yeah, you are too? Yeah. And we speak English in a particular way, especially with students, but not now. Now I have, yeah, different. Now we have somehow. So give our students a chance to speak as well. Give them a chance. Let them say. Let them talk to each other. Yeah, it's very important. And because of this digital divide, many of our students are being left behind, particularly those who come from the less privileged home. Yeah, because we don't have, so this is caused by, again, structural as well as socio-economic barriers. Yeah. We have to give our teachers a platform so that they can enhance learning. So our teachers have a chance to be creative, to come up with some kind of learning where it is more inclusive, where teachers can address equity. Yeah, so the education becomes more equitable. And I know teachers, when you give them a chance, they will rise to the occasion. But remember, it is best if we work together as a group. Universities can work together with teachers, with everybody coming together. Our aim is to make sure that we deliver the teaching to our students, taking into account the different background they come from, the kind of experience they had or they have had in the past, so that these are addressed, so that we bring them in with us. Now, one thing about human being, yeah, someone said to me that most people cannot remember what was taught, nor can they remember how it was taught. But they remember one thing. They remember care. That this particular person cared about me. They remember that because that is human emotion. They remember that human emotion. So if your students come to class, say, hey, how are you? Are you okay? Yeah, talk to them. And they say, yeah, teacher. Okay, bring them as a group of little children working together to improve themselves. Poor and rich come together to help each other. Teachers helping them to be good, to help themselves. All right? So that is about humanizing us as a human being. Next. So very importantly, I think we need money. That's part of the nation, yeah, to help us improve our infrastructure. I think the government is doing it, I hope, and the system, so that if there is a lockdown again, the people in the kampong are not again do not have access to learning, to education. Okay. Next. Now, what is frightening is that the digital divide will leave gap in students' learning. Yeah, that's number one. What we need, as I said there, is to make available more national online resources for teachers and learners. Academics can work together with teachers. There are many people who are very good at online learning. Use these resources. There are many university lecturers who specialize in online learning. Get them together. Have a platform where university people come together to help teachers develop online learning. We have so many experts. Not me, yeah, I'm not into online learning, but there are my colleagues who actually are fantastic people in this area. Get them together. They are from UTM, USM, UC, everywhere. Yeah, get these people specializing in online teaching and learning. Work together to help teachers to develop material. Yeah. So that's very important. And so that there is a supportive digital environment. So when teachers want some material, say for example, you don't have time, you may be able to access a material and then adapt it to your students. So we do need that. We need a data bank, yeah, of materials, easily accessible materials, online material that teachers can adapt according to their students. Yeah, good. And we need to explore a partnership with private sector and the community. It's very important. I noticed that during this COVID, many people, very good, yeah, lots of sedekah around, people give money, helping each other, neighbor help each other, neighbor help neighbor, community help each other. So this is a good sign that, we are helping each other in terms, not just in terms of money, in terms of emotional support and all that. You go on to the next page, please. Now, remember just now, I think Zarina, you talk about flexibility. Yeah? So I bring in the word you reprioritize curriculum goals. You need to look at that, yeah. Given the reality, yeah, that the learning has been disrupted. So this is in terms of flexibility. What do you need to do you need to prioritize? What should come first? Yeah, and the students look at the students, and this is when differentiated learning is very important. How do you, yeah, for teachers, it's a bit of a, I know it's difficult for teachers, yeah, to you need to have differentiated teaching and learning. Like, how do you do that? So I think we need to, as a group, especially at universities, there are people who develop material. How do you develop materials for differentiated learning and teaching? Particularly now we are talking about English language here. Yeah. Now, what we need to do as well, as students come back, we need to ascertain what they have learned while they are learning remotely, yeah, during social distancing, and what they have not learned. So that from there, this is when flexibility has to come in. So we need to, focus on what they need to learn and what they need further on to learn. And do we need to give them extra what do you call it, further engagement. I would call engagement rather than teaching, engagement in order to improve their language. Yeah. So that's we need to think about that as well. And the curriculum should be more flexible, as I said. Yeah, that's a good point, Rina, you raised that. Be more flexible and less restrictive. It should consist of essential knowledge and skills. Particularly, we are talking about, say, for example, students in standard 6, but then they should get A2. But let's say they are not there yet, it doesn't matter. But make sure that they should have what do you call that, a minimal suite of essential knowledge and skills. Yeah, because sometimes some students may not develop fast enough, but somehow there are some students who develop faster when they are in secondary school. So that is something it's difficult for us to understand that. But some students, they are late bloomer, they develop late, and they develop as when they are older, they seem to be, what do you call that, developing at a faster rate than others, and they may be able to catch up. And very importantly as well, you need to identify what are the most basic competencies that need to learn for English. Yeah, what do they need to do? What can they do at this level in terms of listening? What can they do in terms of writing? So, for example, in standard 2, what do you expect them to do in terms of writing? They can't write yet. It's okay, no problem. Let them learn how to write. Yeah, because in this time they may not be learning, and there's a lot of sadness in their life. Learning become the last thing they want to do. Yeah, remember, yes, it is so sad that learning is not important anymore. When you have so much distress and sadness in your life, learning is no more important. Yeah. So we go to next slide, please. Have a bit more time. Yeah, just the next slide. We go. Next slide, please. Yeah, this humanizing pedagogy. That it should be student-centered. It should be inquiry-based. Should be authentic. Before that, yeah. Before that, it should focus. Listen with our heart. Yeah, with our heart. Yeah, that's very important. Listen to our students with our heart, not just with our ears. Listen to them. Yeah, and connect emotionally with your student. Show compassion. Help students to develop ability to deal with the unknown and uncertainty. Yeah. I know it's very difficult for teachers because you have so many students, but perhaps you can take turns to check on our students. So you can form a group so that you can take turns to talk to your students and find out how they are, just to show how we care. The next slide, please. This is where some people say you do Maslow before you do Bloom. People, education will say, oh, but what is important here is that because of the traumatic experience of some of our students, we may need to attend to their emotional need, to their emotional well-being. Yeah, you cannot just focusing on academic achievement. We need to also look at their well-being. Is our student okay? Are our students okay? How are they coping? Do they have food? Have they got basic need? Do the student and their family feel safe and secure? Do our students have a sense of belonging? Have they got have they got friends? Do they have family? That's so we can make the student feel part of the class. The class is a community. You have members of the class, all little children in the class. They are a member of the community, and teachers are a member of teaching community, working together with students in order to help them. Yeah, and how is our student self-esteem? That's very important. Yeah. How do they see themselves? Are they positive about themselves? Do they have a confidence to face challenges? Yeah. And are they ready in a position to learn? Which means that we have to address all the one at the bottom first, so that they have self-actualization, that they are ready to learn. But the one at the bottom have to be addressed first. Yeah. We go to the next one. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. That's okay. Next slide. Yeah. Moving teachers, support for teachers, and teachers need to support, to be supported. When people talk about online, technology alone cannot guarantee good learning outcome. I always tell people sometimes technology is not a big, technology is just technology, but it enables you to teach online. At least you can give your students learning. What more important is us, we as a human self. How do you bring humanity into the teaching of students? Yeah. So teachers need to have the assessment pedagogical skills to meet students at their level, and in order to implement what we call accelerated curricula and differentiated learning, because they have been left behind. How we do that? Do we need accelerated curricula in the first place, or are we content with just teaching students what they need to know, and perhaps once they are more settled, they're becoming normal again. I mean, the community of the classroom community become normal again, like before. Then we can then begin to like we were before. Yeah. Let me go on now. Addressing the problem. Yeah, I have done much. I have just about 4 minutes. I just go quickly. You need to rethink together. We need to rethink together the education. Yeah, what kind of education we actually need. We need to sit down and rethink. There is a massive change, and this is what we call. So when we talk about rethink, we need to engage the stakeholder. There must be stakeholder engagement. We need to talk to teachers, anyone else who are involved, parents, the community, so that we come together as a nation, as a little community, to improve the learning. There is a massive change. What I feel for our teachers is that there is a massive change. Our teachers were able to do it, but I'm sure during that change, there were feelings of uncertainty, there were feelings of I'm not good enough. I'm normal. You ask me, I always feel inadequate, but I'm in front of the what do you call that? A computer trying to communicate with my students. You know, I always feel, oh my God, will there be no connectivity? Do my students hear me? You know, that kind of stress and uncertainty. That's quite normal. How do we then help each other, especially for senior people like us, ni warga emas ni, susah sikit faham ni komputer. Yeah, tekan butang ni something else, apa tekan butang ni something. So I was in that state. I was, oh my God, so difficult. But how do we help teachers to be part of that community, so that they are brought into this new way of teaching, at the same time bringing the human self into the teaching and learning. So there is a change in traditional practice, yeah, whether we like it or not. There is a definite change in traditional practice. What is I think important? You need to look forward, especially those people who specialize in this area, yeah, those people who develop materials online and all that, but work with psychologists, work with teachers, form a community where you have people with different expertise working together, so that the materials that you use, technology is one thing, but learning is another, and caring is another, and making sure that our students get the benefit of our teaching is another. Yeah. So I think we can do this if we work together, which means that, as I put there, reimagine a better English language education with technology. How do we reimagine a better English language education with technology, with the human self coming in to be the focus within that teaching and learning? We go to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. The last slide, I think. Is that last slide? Last slide. Oh, no? Okay, never mind. I have a last slide here. I don't know what happened to last, but let me just give you, because it's already almost 3. I will read the last slide for you. Now, as I said before, people may not remember exactly what we did, yeah, or what we said, but our children will always remember how we made them feel. How we make them feel. So if you ask all of us, when we're children, what do you remember most? I can tell you, I remember when my teacher told me, you are good writer, even though my English was bad. You are good writer. You know, you are good. I said, really? Yes, you are good. Just go on stage and perform your best. Okay? These are the words I remember for the rest of my life. Yeah. And students don't care how much you know. They don't care how much you know, because that's you. Your knowledge is yours until they know how much you care. That's more important. Until your students know how much you care, they don't care about how much you learn. So all of us need to need to think of that. Yeah, think of that. Think of our children as part of ourselves. I'm talking about our students. Think of our friends as part of us, because our friends may also face difficulty. So how do we move forward as citizens of this nation to improve our education system, to implement the English language education policy, so that together we achieve our dream? It is not our dream. It is a dream for the future generations. We are just part of the agency to make this dream possible. Thank you.
I think that was a very insightful session and sharing from her. And we have actually a few questions, and Prof has also addressed the first two questions. So allow me to recap the first question posted by Zurina Uniza from Uniza. Prof, she spoke about flexibility, and you did address her question about flexibility in teaching and learning. And the second question was posed by Mr. Ko Chung Wei.
Yes.
Yes. So, Prof, you have also addressed about speaking. How do we facilitate development? And what was the keyword again, Prof, for encouraging speaking?
Did I have a keyword? I can't remember now. Oh,
You said faster.
Pardon?
Just speak. You said
Oh,
just
yes,
speak.
Yeah, you're right. Yes. Just let them talk. Talk. Speak. Just speak. Yeah. Because that's what we do. We as human beings, we just speak. So don't worry about making mistakes for now. Yeah. That will be the refinement. Let them talk and become comfortable in their own ability.
Okay. So there you have it, Mr. Cole. Keep talking. Get the children to talk.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
We'll still welcome you to post us question, of course. And I would like to extend one more question. This is actually not a question, but a statement by one Nadia. She highlighted two keywords, teacher cognition and opportunities. So she believed that these two keywords, cognition and opportunities, could provide insights into the kind of CPDs that teachers need at the moment. So, Prof, what is your comment?
Yeah, that's a good idea, but teachers' cognition, and also the other one is what she said?
Opportunities.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see, the thing is that if you see the teacher from a holistic perspective, a human self with cognition, with a heart, and with the skill as a teacher, then we develop the whole self. Because sometimes we can focus more on the academic achievement of a person. That is good, but that's a cognitive part of yourself, the thinking. We also need to develop, this is intellectual, we also need to develop the other part of the self, the human part of the self. And I agree with you totally. We need to give our teachers the opportunity to develop. Give them that opportunity. How do we give them? What is a conducive environment for them to develop? That's one thing. But I noticed in the past, teachers have a chance to do their PhD, do their masters. That's fantastic. Now, how do we develop further besides and getting qualifications? How do you do that? Training, and not just that, reading, and perhaps working together as a group. Yeah. So thank you for that. Yes, but again, as I said, we should see teacher as a person with all these attributes. And how do you develop a teacher so that all these come together and she becomes a teacher, not just with knowledge, not just with the skill, not just ability, but also the heart that cares.
Okay. Prof, the keyword that you mentioned just now, heart. So as if you're telling us or you are encouraging us to teach from the heart.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you're
It's,
saying?
yeah,
Okay. Shall
yeah.
we take,
Good. Thank you, Hakimah. Yeah.
yeah, teach from the heart. We have another question by Elmi Azri Matjamial.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so yeah, it's in the private chat now. One of the benefits that comes from the pandemic is it accelerates teachers' adoption of teaching
Yeah.
methods and tools. So teaching methods and tools that is not familiar or used by them before. How
Yes.
can this be sustained
That's a very
post-pandemic? Yeah,
that's a very good question. Yeah. Yes.
thank you,
Yeah.
Elmi Azri.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah. For a very good question. Yes, how it can be sustained again? I think we have to tell ourselves there's no way we can go back to the traditional way of teaching. There's no way, which means we have to move forward. What we need to do is that I think if you have a community of teachers in school, all you all need to work together uh, so that, because not everybody likes online. But somehow our teachers, the change from traditional to online was so fast, and they seem to cope with it. Of course, there are a few may not. So how do we go about? So go on practicing, go on doing it. So despite now we are back to normal, we need to continue doing what we have done before. But again, now we have a chance to improve on it, because before that you all do it. It's called emergency. We call emergency remote learning. What apa-apa patut as soon as students learn, yeah, that's it. That's a what you call cow or whatever you call it. That's a good attitude. Okay, as our students learn, tak kisah buat. Yeah, but that's when there's an emergency. Now we hopefully go back to normal. So we need to think together what we can do in order to make sure that this is maintained. Yeah, we need to have a plan. Nak kata roadmap, takut orang kata terkejut pula roadmapnya. But what it means, we need to have a plan. Where you are now, as of now, where our kids are, move forward. What we need to do together in order for us to make sure that this is sustainable. There must be a plan. Yeah, there must be a plan. So that we have what we call achievement target. Macam student, A to B1, we also have achievement target in terms of online learning teaching. What we have learned,
Yes.
days I've learned. Like me, I sometimes ask a young one, what button to press? How do I upload? I can't even upload sometimes. And also I need to tick. Ni upload, belajar upload. Okay, Prof Zoo, okay, upload dah belajar. So you need to have a tick. But you don't have to feel as you are inadequate. No, because we are learning. I think one thing beautiful about learning is that we have to accept that in learning, we have to accept there's things that we do not know. Tu kena buat tu. Terima dulu. Tak belajar. Tak boleh. Then once you have accepted that, so what? I'm learning. That is positive. You do not know is okay. Every one of us not know. I didn't start the way I am as I'm now. I have been in the unknown world for a long time. Even now, there's things which I do not know. But more importantly is from the do not know to rangkak. Soon we become, Yeah. And we help others to know as well. Does that answer your question? I hope, Elmi. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So to the viewers, our viewers out there, I think Professor is also trying to again encourage us to first learn and then unlearn and then relearn. It's not something new to the internet citizen, but yeah, people like me, I think I am also the
You are young.
young at heart. Yeah. So we are still we are still immigrant. So we need to learn and also unlearn.
Yeah. Unlearn old things and bad habits and relearn. Ini unlearn yang susah sikit ni. And the unlearn is a bit more difficult because we are so used to doing things our way. Yeah. Okay. Right.
So yeah, we have one more. Let me see. There's one. I think for your information, Prof, you have a lot of hearts. The viewers at the moment, we have roughly we have almost 500 viewers at the moment, and the viewers are giving you hearts. They love
Oh,
your
really?
session so
What
much.
the heart
Yes,
is? Oh, really?
yes,
Oh,
you get hearts. Later on, you can have a look at it, Prof.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. You're so
Mhm.
kind. But love your
Yes.
children, please. Love your profession, please. All of you love your profession. It is a wonderful profession to be in. Wonderful. We can't make money, but we can produce children.
Exactly. So love the children, teach from your heart. That's the
Yeah.
takeaway that
And
we
work
can
together.
take.
Work together. Yeah. And
Yeah.
help each other, please. Yeah.
There's one concern by Muhammad Hajazi Abdul Hamid, Muhammad Hajazi.
Yes,
So
yes.
this is in relation to the suggestion by Prof just now. You said get the children to keep talking. So Hajazi mentioned that educators really need to change the students' mindset about speaking in English, because the community, there is a tendency for certain community to pandang serong or give one kind of look for students who attempted to speak in English, though in broken English. Comment, Prof.
Okay. Now, of course, we can't help that. Yeah. There are people who tend to think, oh, your English is so bad. Now, we can be the change. We can be the agent of change. We teachers. But I'm saying is that in the class, you instill your student this thinking. Tak apa dek, tak apa nak buat salah buat lah asal belajar. That means, it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, just whether we want to admit or not. But more importantly, it's not okay not to learn. Not okay not to learn. Which means that we have to encourage these children, little children, talk. We have those people who have children, yeah? Yang ada cucu lah. You see, our children, our own little baby, mula-mula pap, they can't speak anything. And then mak punya suka, pandainya anak bercakap, you say. That's me. My child call me mama, but actually the child doesn't call you mama, just you know what I'm saying? So the mother encourages the child. Then the child started papa, panggil papa pula, call papa. Whereas the child just practices the p sound. What I'm saying is that, we have to do that to our children. Talk, please. Let them be confident. Never mind, you make mistake. By making mistake, you like you said, you unlearn and you relearn, and then you get better. So, but more importantly, supportive environment. We want our students to learn, there must be supportive environment. Itu penting for teachers. Okay.
So if I can list down some of the keywords that Prof you have mentioned throughout this session. I think in Southeast Asia, we have actually some viewers from the Philippines, from the Sabah, Sarawak, even the northern region. Yeah, we have our viewers from Perlis, Langkawi, from Penang. They give you send you the regards, and then Selangor, Sarawak, yes, Kelantan, Johor.
Hi, teachers. Are there teachers? I miss it.
I believe they are teachers. Yes, and some from UKM. There's PPD and a few agencies. So some of the keywords that I can wrap up from your session, we are talking about ongoing school closure, and teachers need to deal with flexibility, the loss in person learning time, connectivity, change of practice, engagement, and also striking the balance in training teachers for schools.
Yeah.
So in relation to your sharing, Prof, this is my personal question actually.
Okay.
You talk about humanizing policy implementation. So besides these keywords that I mentioned, what could be the other possible challenges faced when implementing the policy?
That's a good question. Most important, I think the challenge that I face is that, you see, because people like us, we are so used to working in silo, on our own, and within our own unit, we are comfortable with that. So when you have an outsider coming in to be part of that group, you may find it difficult to share. Not because you don't want to share, because as I said, trust. It's about trust, and it's about will I show my weakness if I show somebody my work? Will I then reveal my weakness? You see. So what what I think for policy, for the nation to benefit from the policy, I think we have to get rid of all these uncertainties in us. We are human beings. I can understand that. I have that problem when I was young as well. Get rid of that. Then we get rid of that feeling and say we come together, all of us, learning from each other. So even like me, you say, oh, no, don't think me as professor because I'm also learning. Actually, I said to sometimes say to my students, I learn a lot from my students and from the younger people, younger academics, because they learn me, they teach me how it is, the difficulty in order to develop. Yeah, because sometimes we take for granted, but we forget that there are people who are developing and they feel inadequate and not confident. So I think we need to get rid of that, the lack of confidence in ourselves. We need to share, and we cannot not let others look at our work, because especially when we want to improve, you see, there must be some sharing and there must be some critical input in order to improve it. I always tell that we, because not everybody can give critical input, yeah. But if you can have someone to give you the critical input, and from that you all work together as a group to improve, and I think policy can be implemented. And we also must care about our teachers. Like even teachers complain, don't say, oh, I complain, we can't say that, because we need to understand where they come from. Sometimes when we communicate things, we didn't realize our teachers didn't get it. You know what I mean? We communicate, we thought everybody seemed to know. No, we forgot. Oh my goodness, cikgu ni tak dapat. These teachers may not have it. So what we need, so now with online, one thing good about online, we can come online together. If there are problems, discuss online. Tell each other. Yeah, so that we can together improve. I think that's one thing good about online is this. You don't have to pay anything. It's free.
Exactly. Yes.
But we must have an open mind. We have to have that. You have to have an open mind and allow people to look at your work and work together for it to be that kind of silo. I find a bit difficult to deal with.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. So there's no more question. I presume that most of our viewers now are thanking you, Prof.
Thank you.
Shall we wrap up?
Yes.
Yeah, no more question, but they love you so much. They gave you hearts. So this concludes the webinar for today. Thank you for attending this session. We really hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. I would also like to thank not only to Professor Zuraida Muhammad John, our speaker for today. I would also like to express my thank you to Educational Technology Division, Malaysia, Ministry of Education Malaysia, for the platform that we are using, and also thank you to our rapporteurs. My viewers out there, please don't forget our next webinar series will be held this coming Thursday, 9th of September. Will be live, brought to you by IPG Campus Bahasa Antarabangsa at 11 a.m. Malaysia time. So till then, thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you very much.
Prof.
Thank you. Very good session.